Aye.
Short Bus Debate Club. It's a bus rolling.
I can get on board. Hello, I'm Darren Jolly.
It's time to get this short bus started. So let's roll and on with the show. All right, people, welcome to part 2 of the War on Drugs. When we ended the last episode, we were talking about an email and a conversation that I had with the city and county of Denver, the Denver Police Department. I was trying to find out again, how they are affected daily as far as the war on drugs goes, and whether or not it's taking them away from other crimes and that kind of stuff, whether we're spending a lot of money for no apparent reason. And obviously, I may have led them down a path that I wanted them to take with my questions, but that wasn't necessarily my intent. So again, when I talked to them day before yesterday, they said that they were still working on it and that they would get it to me as soon as possible. Still haven't seen anything yet, but like I said, we've had a couple of shootings in Denver. Whether or not those were drug related, I don't know. And they haven't said. So I sent them an email basically saying, hey, I wanted to know how the department feels about the war on drugs. How does it affect you guys? Wanted to know if you had a general statement or any answers that maybe were in the frequently asked questions section, but I couldn't find anything, so I decided to contact you directly. So question 1, fairly simple. Does the Denver Police Department have a blanket statement regarding the department's position on drugs? I don't think any explanation is needed there.
No, yeah. You're asking for just what their official position is.
Right. Has fighting illegal drugs impacted the daily routine of the Denver Police Department and its ability to serve and protect members of the community? Again, pretty straightforward.
It is a little leading, though.
Yes, but it definitely doesn't require any explanation.
No.
But I
think it is important to point out, though, that it's a little leading.
Yeah. Well, I am trying, like I said, to lead them down a certain path, but maybe it is just because I want everything to be legalized because I think it'd be so much easier.
We have certain assumptions, yeah.
Now this one's important. What is the percentage of drug-only infractions in the past months, quarters, and or years? And the reason that I asked that question the way I did with drug only is because district attorneys, the police who write the tickets or charge people initially have a tendency to muddy the waters a little bit and make one thing about another or vice versa. So, if you went in and held up a fucking convenience store and you happened to be high on meth and you had some weed in the car, then it was, armed robbery, being on the under the influence of an illicit substance or something along those lines, and possession of marijuana with intent to distribute. And that's if you're in a state where it's not legal. But so that's why I said drug only, because if we are truly in a war on drugs, then they should be able to separate those out. But they have a tendency to leave them all together for a couple of different reasons. One, I think they get higher sentences. And two, there are certain politicians at both the state and federal level, maybe even, local levels, where now they can say, well, drugs fuel crime. It's obvious because that guy was on meth when he robbed that convenience store. That guy was high on heroin when he burglarized that house, which I don't know who would be high on heroin burglarizing anything, but you get the point. Question 4, would drugs being legal or decriminalized allow the Denver Police Department to investigate other types of violent and or property crime? Again,
not leading at all. No, not at all.
Slightly leading, but important still. Question 5, how much does the war on drugs cost the city and county of Denver? And then I broke it down into salaries, overtime, surveillance, technology, and legal and or court costs. And again, they should have those numbers readily available to some degree, even if they are grouped together with other crimes.
Maybe. I don't know. I haven't looked at a lot of criminal justice statistics when it comes to allocation of resources relative to specific types of crimes. I mean, you have drug divisions, right? I mean, which is a specifically designated thing, in terms of allocation of resources, right? And there might be something inside of DA, assistant DA, offices, adjacent to the crime fighting,
Well, I just kind of glanced at the 2022 City and County of Denver budget. And I saw that the police budget was on there. It didn't break it down into those line items, but what the police department submitted to the mayor and or city council should have had this stuff broken down. Like the technology part may have been new computers for cars or parabolic mics or whatever.
But having them broken down based on specifics with regards to those, as opposed to specifics relative to a specific type of crime fighting action, may or may not be.
Could be a different thing, and it could be because, if they have been following one drug gang around for 6 months, then they probably know how much that one case has cost, but they don't know overall, what watching
They might have an idea of it, but I'm not certain that if they've been chasing somebody for, just one stupid fucking movie comes to mind, 48 Hours, the way that Nick Nolte was chasing after the Iceman, if you're spending a ton of time and a ton of money and not having success, I'm not certain how much you want to be making those line items available.
No, and a lot of the money may not be on that budget also because, X amount of dollars comes, the city and county of Denver got a shitload of money for body cams, and they got it from the state of Colorado law enforcement fund, and some other fucking municipality got all of this money for drones and so on. So maybe that isn't on the budget either. So maybe that's why they don't know where it is.
Not leading at all, though.
Again, not sure if it's that they're trying to hide something, or if it's just the way this money's coming in, so it doesn't end up being on that budget. But they should be able to come up with a fucking estimate. Speaking of estimates, what are the estimated number of assaults, shootings, and other violence due to gangs fighting over territory, customers, drugs, and or money in previous years. I asked that question, well, obviously because I wanted to know the answer, but during Prohibition, these guys were fucking, and I'm talking about alcohol prohibition, those guys were fighting over turf constantly, and people were being gunned down in the streets and everywhere else.
Like that movie Lawless, where they'd been doing their fucking backwater hillbilly fucking moonshining, and then those people from Chicago come in and start trying to charge a tax
right
on them.
Right.
So.
But I mean, even in the city of Chicago, those guys were fighting constantly.
Yeah. I mean, suggesting ultimately that alcohol is like drugs, and drugs connects to gangs in relation to territories, which means that people getting killed in gang violence directly connects to drug sales inside of specific locations. So, I mean, that may not be something that everybody makes that, which is something obviously when we talk about gangs next week, we'll make more connections to, like ultimately. But that's why you asked that question, because there's an assumption that if you decriminalize at the very least, or legalize and regulate and tax these various markets, you would no longer have somebody in Supermax running drugs from Mexico into the United States any longer. The way that Colombia was functioning, of course, this is way too gross an oversimplification, but it would the way that violence is being constructed in today's world as it relates to gangs would not function in the same way. That's for sure.
No, and who knows? Maybe they would find something else to fight about.
They'd ship to other black markets.
Now
presumably.
they're fighting over gambling or prostitution or
other
whatever.
black markets. Yeah. Which is part of the reason why the sort of like libertarian aspect of your existence pushes for decriminalizing all of these things and regulating them on some level.
Yeah, dude, and not everything we talk about fits under vice. I mean, under the legal definition of vice, but
that is an important distinction, the legal definition of vice.
Everything. Okay, so if you have a vice, like I smoke cigarettes, vice, drink, vice, those are both legal vices. But we all have these vices. Prostitution's a vice, gambling, drugs. I think all of those vices should be legal. And then I don't know maybe they would fight over their fucking shirt color. I don't know. But
the what?
Their shirt colors.
Their shirt colors.
Or
not unless they were making money out of it.
Wouldn't think so. But who knows? So then the final question that I asked. Oh, that's all of them. No, there's one more. Sorry. How many, if any, innocent people were injured and or killed within the city and county of Denver as a direct result of drug violence in previous years? Again, these guys know who most of the gangbangers are around town. They know who's selling drugs, who isn't, or at least they have a suspicion.
Presumably who would be innocent and who would not be innocent.
And so if, a fucking 4-year-old playing in the park gets
catches
shot,
a bullet, yeah. They're definitely innocent.
Yeah. Or at least more innocent than the 7-year-old.
Yeah, because a 7-year-old, by that point in time, they could be pimping hoes and shit like that.
That's right. Bitch, don't make me slap you. Okay, so that was all of the questions. And then I said, we're talking about gangs next week. If you want to point me in the right direction for gangs in Denver, please do so. Or if you want to be on the show, let me know. And again, I know that they're busy. They're just one department within a large department. So
there have been a couple of murders this week, so it's been kind of a busy week.
Yeah. So I want to give them the benefit of the doubt, especially because they said that they were working on it.
Mm-hmm.
Could have been blown.
And not only did they say that they were working on it, they said, Brian, yeah, we know. We're working on it. You know, when you get on a first name basis with the Denver Department of Information, you know you're either going in a good direction or a bad one.
Yeah. And I'm not sure which at this point. I mean, considering the fact that we're doing this for pretty much for free, I'm not sure it's a good direction, but fuck.
Yeah, you throw enough shit against the wall, something's eventually got to stick, right?
That on all levels,
whether in responses from the Denver police department or in trying to get people to listen to any of the bullshit that we
right. I mean, and we could be making enemies on all sides, right? Because we talked about the fact that if we legalize it, then Chapo lost all of his juice in the Supermax.
He's not excited about our legal position. No. For sure.
And I don't know if any of the others are, and they could be just in the middle, only making $100,000 a month.
But the prison industrial complex, they don't want it to go away.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of things that are being alluded to here, right? Is that when you're dealing with the political economy of these types of things, and I mean, obviously we're tending in a specific direction because like this week when we frame it from this point of view of like, there's the suggestion that there was a tendency towards the militarization of the police and the creation of these legal spaces that would become hyper aggressive against specific populations particularly inside of urban centers, but throughout the United States, writ large. And as these business opportunities opened up, then there would be the codification of specific industries in relation to them that would allow for it both. And like Brian had suggested at the beginning, some of the industries are very clearly black market industries. Some of the industries are more on the up and up, if you want to call housing fucking immigrants at the fucking border in fucking cages, and some of the shit that we were talking about last week or 2 weeks ago with regards to the prison industrial complex industries that are on the up and up. I'm not sure. I tend to agree a little bit more with some of the characterizations of the other book that I was talking about with that guy that teaches
the police. Oh no, the Rutgers guy.
Out of Rutgers. Yeah. I can't remember what his name is. Chris Hedges, I think. Yeah, Chris Hedges is his name.
That sounds right.
But that as this sort of happens, as this change in policy happens in 1971. So when did the DEA come into being? What was?
So Nixon was 71. I thought it was 73, 72, 73.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
I don't know. I thought it was funny because in that show Narcos, they were talking about the DEA, and basically all of the other police agencies thought the DEA was a joke. Personally, I do too. But whether or not it was true, and July 1st, 1973. Okay. In Narcos, they said that the DEA's office was actually above a strip club in Washington, D.C. Now, I don't think that they're going to...
Did it happen to be the strip club where Marion Barry was getting his crack? Sorry, that was a dick move.
It may have been, of course.
I will tell you something really, 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 really funny. So I'm sure that this was Brianna Joy Gray the other day, but people were talking about their sordid history, and she was talking to these other people that identify themselves as hyper lefties, generally Marxists or whatnot. And Brianna Joy Gray revealed that her mother had dated Marion Barry in the late 60s.
Really?
Yeah. Dude. She said that, which obviously was 20 years before he got popped for all the shit that happened in the 80s. But I thought it was a pretty fucking. I mean, sometimes how a person will present themselves publicly will allow me to endear myself to them a little bit more. And when she said that without even a hesitation, I think that was a very charming thing to do.
I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, but the legalization of marijuana or any drugs kind of maybe requires a little more thought. Marion Barry got in trouble for crack. Well, that and Anita Bryant. But so if all drugs are legal, how do you write that in, or do you even bother writing it in for politicians and you say, well, you can't come to chambers, being high on heroin, or any illicit substance.
Better not, like, if you're going to be pulling the peyote buttons out, if you're going to go on a journey, let me just make like a stupid funny another side point here real quick, and this is sort of the problem with part two, is that we kind of deteriorate into these spaces sometimes where we get tangent oriented. But when I was looking at the scheduling as it was outlined in the 118th Congress, which is the most recent identification of how controlled substances are scheduled at this point in time, there were a lot of notes that I made on this, and we don't have time to get into them all, but one of the ones that I found most entertaining was that in Schedule 1, so Schedule 1 and Schedule 2 are the highest ones. They have the highest potential for abuse. One of them is identified as having medical use, and the other one is identified as having no medical use. Schedule 1 is no medical use. Schedule 2 has medical use. In Schedule 2, you have cocaine. Obviously there are tons of derivatives of cocaine that are used for dental shit, like lidocaine and all, and just for other numbing agents in the body, right? Methamphetamines. They give R.O.L.L, which is for all intents and purposes a variation of methamphetamines, to so many fucking people under the sun lately that it's like it's laughable. Oxycodone obviously is a painkiller they give all the time, and fentanyl is something that they give when people are when they get shot or something like that.
Or cancer.
I mean, yeah. But anything.
It's dire type shit.
Yes. So ultimately, these ones are identified as having medical uses, but the ones that are listed as not having medical uses are marijuana, which, since all of the legalization of marijuana in the United States began with
medicinal
marijuana, this is laughable that it even maintains a Schedule 1 to this date. LSD, which, of course, like the original looks into LSD were only being done by the CIA because they were trying to use it as a mind control thing. You just go look at the MK Ultra things; these are not things that are. It's all declassified stuff through FOIA. And peyote, which is as every indigenous body that utilizes peyote identifies it as medicine.
Yeah, and they can still use it because it's under their
but it's only for religious purposes. It's not and that's really problematic, is that they separate like spiritual medicine from, because the way that our spirit, and I don't mean spiritual in a little like God, Jesus, this kind of stuff. I mean the human spirit. Like when people do peyote, when they go on these fucking journeys, whether they do it in a controlled environment or not, that has incredible physical consequences for people if you get your mind working in the right direction. And then of course MDMA is listed there, and with all the stuff that they've been doing with veterans, as we were talking about beforehand, and because of the success they've had with in PTSD circumstances with veterans, they're already branching out into these other areas. So and if they're utilizing them in these clinical spaces where they're testing these various theories that they're having with regards to PTSD, obviously these are being used as medicine at this point in time. So how the fuck is MDMA still classified as a Schedule 1 fucking drug?
Well, so again, and on the business of drugs, on Netflix again, MDMA and the precursors or chemical drugs were one episode. And MDMA was talked about with regard to post-traumatic stress. Now, I know that the one guy that they talked to probably wasn't the only case, and they probably had some failures. I mean, dude, in order for a pharmaceutical drug to be able to be advertised on TV and say, Lyrica works or this does this or whatever. I talked to my doctor because I was like, why didn't this fucking work on me? What the fuck is wrong with me? And he goes, well, dude, he said, really, I mean, the success rate of any of these drugs is probably at the highest, like maybe 60%. But most of the time, it's around 40, 50% that are successful. So the other 50%, it doesn't work. So if you follow that same, number pattern with MDMA, then it's still not a bad thing. I mean, because pharmaceuticals are fucking people up left and right with the side effects and everything else. But this guy on the business of drugs, he said, he was fucked up. He tried to commit suicide. That didn't work. Somebody says, hey, you need to go see this person. And it was a MDMA therapeutic something or other.
These people, they're all over the place.
Yeah, and this wasn't the only one that I had heard of, but I mean, this was a guy that was truly fucked up and tried to kill himself.
Yeah, what did you say? He tried to blow his brains out.
Yeah, and the bullet fucking didn't go.
So he was a failure at everything that he did.
But it only took 3 sessions.
And then he was no longer a failure.
Right.
Which doesn't mean that he went back and tried to kill himself again.
Or maybe he did. I don't fucking know. Because they don't follow up with that part. By the way, all of these people, these guys OD'd.
He went really good for about 3 months, and then he blew his fucking brains out.
Because he was jonesing on MDMA.
He's very dark humor here sometimes.
So yeah, I mean, and to just write off any drug, regardless, because again, the pharmaceutical companies can essentially do whatever the fuck they want. Mm-hmm. Obviously, that's not entirely true, but they've got a lot of fucking leeway.
They do, and they've got a lot of pull. I mean, with regards to the way that they give their kickbacks to all those cockbags in fucking Congress, and they maintain, like, right. There's, one of the things that I like about Breaking Point's, like, Sagar has an obsession with the pharmaceutical companies. So, like, and so does Crystal for that matter, but Sagar has a particularly, like, pointed way. Like, well, they'll go and they'll look at one where there's like this pain medicine that like costs $20,000 a year to get fucking a prescription for, and they change the time release from 12 hours to 14, and that alters because you're only allowed to hold a patent on something like that for so long before a generic can come out.
Yeah.
So they alter that to where it says that the 12-hour time release is defunct and does not function. So they reset the clock on it, so they maintain whatever the 5 or 7 year, however long it is, and that kind of shit fucking happens.
They do that shit all the time, dude. And Lyrica, like I mentioned, I mean that shit was fucking expensive as shit. Mm-hmm. Like even with insurance, it was gonna cost me fucking $400 a month. Yeah, and
that was one of the ones that they were talking
and that was with insurance. Yeah. So it was actually, I think it was $3,000 a month or some shit that they were billing.
That'd be $36,000 a year. That might have been the one they were talking about.
So they sent out this thing that said, oh, well, if you want to try Lyrica, you can do it, and it's only going to cost you $50 out of pocket. But you had to fill out all of this horse shit and send it to them, whatever. Lyrica didn't fucking work for me anyway. But there are 2 what I would consider cousins of Lyrica, that they're not truly generic Lyrica, because one of the chemical branches has just slightly changed to where it's essentially the same fucking drug, but it's not. So lots of people are getting those now because Kaiser as a whole won't give Lyrica because it's so fucking expensive. So they get the cousins.
Cost without insurance, depending on dosage, is between $266.38 a month and $1,112.72 a month.
That's fucking expensive, dude. Because when they tried to give it to me, that was back in 2014. So I'm sure.
That was off of talktomira.com. just so you know.
Yeah, I mean, but that isn't the only one that's like that. It might be the most expensive one, but they, like you said, they constantly change something and say, oh, well, it was this. So they resubmit their patent, and then now none of the generic companies can do it.
Yeah, that whole resetting of the clock is the key to all those ones. They had made 50 billion. They had made like some ungodly amount of money, like $50 billion off of it. So, I mean, if you make $50 billion with the cost of like the 14-year lifespan of a drug like that, you're not gonna just give it. You're gonna do everything you can to not give it over.
Which is so fucking stupid. So oxycodone has been around longer than OxyContin. Now, everybody confuses OxyContin and oxycodone.
I don't.
I don't either. But I don't take OxyContin because it's a fucking time release, and those suck. They're fucking worthless.
The only time I'd ever seen him was when Annie had broken her leg so bad, and they were giving her because her leg she was in the external fixator.
Yeah. But they tried to pull that shit and say, well, no, you can't. We're gonna do a generic, or you can't do a generic of this. Well, you basically took oxycodone and threw it in some sort of fucking plastic, whatever the fuck, and made it to where now oxycodone was being released slowly and made billions of dollars off of it. And now you're going to say that somebody else can't do a fucking time release? Time release isn't new, you fuckheads. But whatever they can do to make money. Yeah, and they had a lot of fucking money because they made so much off of that. And I don't know if it was because, like, Rush Limbaugh was the official spokesperson.
But that was pre-time release with him. Like, he was crushing them and snorting them, I think, if I remember reading what I read.
Oh, maybe
there was a time period when because Contin is not codone. There is a difference. It is more potent.
I didn't think so. I thought it was just time release, but you could be right. I don't know because
he got junkied on that stuff though, dude. He got in a bad way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they say that everybody does, and maybe they do.
If it wasn't Rush Limbaugh, I don't want to piss on anybody's grave, but it is Rush Limbaugh, so I'll go ahead and piss on his grave.
Yeah, OxyContin is oxycodone HCI.
That's all it says.
And that's from the OxyContin website.
Okay.
So it's just an extended release. And that's they had some sort of special time release
when
thing.
They put it in where that you couldn't chew them or crush them or snort them anymore. It was
right. Because it was that weird fucking. It was like a plastic safe,
yeah,
dude.
When Annie had those ones, yeah, you couldn't. I mean, they were like rocks. You put them in, they go into your stomach, and then and that was the point. Like, her leg was so fucked up, they had her do that, and she'd have to take one at 12 hours. Every 12 hours she'd take one, but then they'd have her take 2 of the 7.5 milligram Percocets every 4 hours because she needed to have the, what did they call that? Breakthrough pain. Yeah, things, and then that would manage. And dude, and she needed it.
So maybe the OxyContin was stronger because it was just a stronger dosage. I don't know.
I have no idea.
I'm not a pharmacist. I could maybe call one.
I'm sure that they would respond. Yeah, they love to talk to the media or just people that are just not media, but just having podcasts talking shit about.
I'm related to her, so she might call me back.
Who are you gonna call?
My pharmacist cousin.
Oh, I thought you were just talking about calling a pharmaceutical company.
No.
Yeah, that's too bad because I know they really. Yeah.
Yeah.
Your pharmacist cousin, she may not. She wouldn't want to be on here. She doesn't impress me as the kind of person that likes microphones very much.
No, probably not. But I mean, who knows? Okay, so we know pharmaceutical companies have a bunch of juice. And maybe that's one of the reasons that, like, these schedules are still in place and they're saying you can't do testing on MDMA or you can't use weed for medicinal reasons or any of that stuff. And part of it could be that weird religious thing, and part of it could be the weird fear thing, because they pound that into our heads a lot too, right? If we legalize drugs, there are going to be junkies on every corner. And what happens when there's junkies? Crime increases. People are going to be stealing your fucking car, and they're going to be breaking into your house. They're going to be raping your dog. Everything, it's just going to be a clusterfuck of stuff because everybody's going to be addicted to drugs. I know, weird, right?
And he was supposed to be a freedom guy.
So that was 3 different fear things that they hit us with. And if you're religious and some sort of fucking peeking out the fucking blinds all the time because you're worried about shit, you're probably not gonna say, hey, we need to legalize this stuff.
Did you ever see the movie that Darren Aronofsky did about drugs? Ellen Burstyn was in it, and she started doing methamphetamines in it.
What was it called?
Oh, dude, I can't remember. I'm trying to figure that out right now. It was a fucked up movie, dude. Like Requiem for a Dream.
No.
Oh, dude, that is a must-see movie. It's a movie that must be seen. They start out by just.
Is that what must-see means?
I wasn't trying to give a definition, bitch.
It's a must-see movie. It must be seen.
I was just saying over again. Ellen Burstyn, she got nominated for an Academy Award for it though. But Jared Leto's in it. His girlfriend is Jennifer Connelly in it. His best friend is Marlon Wayans.
I think I've seen part of that. Didn't they have some weird orgy?
Dude, yeah, because at the end, so Jennifer Connelly goes and fucks this guy to get heroin for Jared Leto, right? And he loses her as a result of this because he keeps sending her to this guy.
Yeah, you can't pimp your girl.
To get heroin. But when they break up at the end, she goes to this thing and does this sort of sex show where there's a double dildo and she's fucking this other girl with a double dildo at the same time, and it's so that she can get her fix at that point in time. But I can't remember what happens to Wayans, but
ironic, like she just didn't want to share the drugs anymore. She'll go fuck somebody.
No, she was broke. No, she was well. Okay, you're being a smartass, but she was broken by the fact that he was pimping her out. I mean, that was the truth of it. But Jared Leto gets this infection in his arm because he keeps hitting the fucking same spot, and they're telling him, dude, you got to pick a different spot, and he ends up in the hospital, and they're like, dude, your fucking arm, and his arm comes off. They have to take his arm off. But somehow or another, his mom I can't even remember how it happens, but she starts doing speed, and her addiction to speed, the way that Darren Aronofsky plays this out in this fucking show is there's a reason why she got nominated for an Academy Award. Do you want me to redefine must watch for you? It is a must watch. You must watch it. It's not a film that I can watch. I only watched it twice. The second time I was like, dude, I can never watch this movie again because it is so fucked up. But Darren Aronofsky, I mean, he's just one of those guys. Sometimes he does some shit on the screen that fucks your head up so bad that you got to kind of walk away from it. And this is Requiem for a Dream was a very good it's hyperbolic, I don't know anybody that got addicted to heroin that lost their fucking arm. I do know that there was this one kid that when I was in high school who started to smoke speed, and he was awake for 4 days and started to talk to aliens and started talking to his dead mom and that kind of shit.
Being up that long
that happened, yeah. And not only, but being up that long where you have when you're smoking speed over and over and over and over again, it's more than just the sleep deprivation. It's that, he was in a bad way. I don't know what ended up happening to the kid. He was a pretty good kid. I felt bad for him. He ended up getting so heavily hooked on it. But yeah, Requiem for a Dream. Maybe I should have saved that for our hour long.
Yeah, some other one. So I think based on what you just said, and maybe the case was drastic with him losing his arm and pimping his girl and all that shit. But I know that the pimping thing happens. Probably the losing your arm thing happens from time to time, or, at least you get some fucking atrophy and it's useless or whatever. But what I was going to say is, I think some drugs are probably worse than others. But as far as I'm concerned, it's not up to the government to say which ones those are and aren't. Because again, you're not my babysitter. I don't need you to take care of me. But if meth is worse than weed and heroin is worse than
weed,
oxy, there's a chance, and this shouldn't scare anybody. This should, oh, well, maybe he's right. You might be able to now have more of a conversation with these groups that have been traditionally hidden away because they're afraid they're going to get caught for doing drugs. And now maybe they can truly get help. I'm not saying that you need to go and knock on everybody's door and say, hey, do you want help? Hey, let us help you. But if it's more available, then maybe not as many people are going to be addicted as you thought, because more of them that are already addicted are now going to request help because they don't have to worry about going to jail.
Well, no matter what, the original, like the triple scare tactic that you introduced, that neither one of us believe is the teleology, that it's gonna, that if you legalize it, then necessarily people are going to become criminals and the society is going to degenerate. Like this rhetorical teleological disposition is absurd. But one thing does concern me about decriminalization or legalization. If we don't at least put something in place for like through like that's why you don't just decriminalize. That's why you legalize, you regulate, you take proceeds from the tax funds, and like in British Columbia where you have things like clean injection sites, right? Like this is a very very simple thing. And you look. It is not. Look, when I played poker for a living, the reason why I beat the fuck out of most people at poker was because I realized when I had a deficit and I found somebody who had a strength in that and I extracted that strength from them and I applied it to my own game, right? Looking outside of yourself is not a sign of weakness. Looking outside of yourself to somebody that's doing something better than you're doing it is actually a strength, I would argue. So if you look to Portugal, say for instance, who has been an incredible decriminalizer and has done a lot of this, and who, when they made this stuff available and started to regulate it, because they didn't just decriminalize, they did a lot of stuff. They put a lot of things in place to help people that were addicts. They actually were interested in the concept, like we were talking about last week. We're not just talking about a revolving door. If you get people that are addicted and they want to not be addicted, you want to be able to rehabilitate them. You want to get them in a position to where they can do that, right? So you need to put those structures in place. So look at a country like Portugal that's done a really, really good job of facilitating that process, right? Obviously, like I'm getting the carriageway ahead of the horses because we're so like we are not ever going to get to the point where we're going to be even thinking about decriminalization until like the political economy like deadlock on the way that the system is reproducing itself, like as it relates to the pharmaceutical company, as it relates to the prison industrial complex, as it relates to the way that the CIA uses drugs to finance their activities that they don't want to be seen coming through Congress in those funding circles, so that they're subject to oversight or other intelligence agencies that are acting throughout the world. Until those certain aspects of the political economy that continue to perpetuate the existing drug policy positions are, at the very least, begun to be dismantled, then all of the points are moot, like in the interim.
Well, and you and I talked about this before we started recording. I mean, there may be a lot of other moot points. I mean, because just because we said, fuck it, do any drug you want, doesn't mean that the other countries are going to allow those people to export it to us. I mean, again, so if we go to certain countries and we say, hey, gates are open, bring it on, maybe Colombia buys in.
This is a trend, and that's another thing. Like, for us to talk about regulation on a nation state level, it denies the fact that these positions are transnational. Like, the drug trade is transnational. Like, the heroin trade is definitely something that is coming from all over the world into all these different places. Like, in the mechanisms that allow them to pass through them, if you don't think that state mechanisms are functioning on behalf of these spaces, then you're fucking deluding yourselves.
Well, heroin, I think we could do here. Mm-hmm. Again, it's the poppy is fucking robust as a motherfucker. It's resilient as hell.
But then you're upsetting balance of power in other places where you take those drugs out of.
So then all of a sudden, maybe fucking Burma declares war on us. I don't know. But I think the only one we couldn't do here is cocaine. And I don't know that for a fact. Maybe we could grow coca indoors. I don't know.
You're still not going to unplug the United States from the global political economy.
No, absolutely not. But I think, again, so they grow lots of poppies down in Mexico. I mean, that was always in the past, they called it China white, Mexican brown. And it was a quality thing. If you didn't have a lot of money, you bought Mexican brown. If you had a lot of money, you bought China white.
In my heroin purchasing days, like, they're kind of fuzzy, so.
Right. I can't remember. I lost my fucking arm.
Hey, concentrate. Get that dildo out of your ass.
All I can remember is I was pissed because that bitch only brought $20 back to me. Dumb whore. I don't know. And maybe we just supplement. But I think because a lot of it comes from like Afghanistan, Pakistan. We go over there and we say, hey, we'll give you more aid money because now we're going to start taxing this shit.
They say that a lot of the fentanyl comes from China, but I really question that. Like, I know that, like, a ton of our pharmaceuticals come from China. So I know pharmaceutical capabilities are incredible in China, just like they're incredible in India.
Yeah. Right?
But I still, like, every time somebody says something negative, like, if you were to say something negative about Russia right now, like, if you're going to say something negative about Russia that's just out of nowhere, that, like, I need some substance to that. I need you to tell me why that is. And I need, like, the fentanyl thing. Like, I just hear over and over. Maybe I'm just ignorant, and maybe somebody could educate me. And if somebody is listening to the show and they know something about fentanyl production in China and how they're getting it through Mexico into the United States, which is what seems to be being suggested over and over and over again, I would be happy to be educated on this point. But right now, it just seems that this has sort of been a smear tactic that's been being put out there.
Well, and the DEA's fact sheet, because I think on our first episode we did on drugs, which was episode 5 or whatever.
Shit, I don't know.
I looked it up, and the fact sheet was a one-sided PDF.
Yeah.
That
it's all bullshit.
It didn't have any more information on it. Yeah. I mean, it might have been more accurate. Like, I talk to people and they're like, you want to stay away from fentanyl. It's 100 million times more fucking potent than heroin. So you just take one little speck and you'll be fucking high forever.
And they said that when they were coming out of the bathroom when you were working over at that.
The 7-Eleven where they chased the guy off with the fire extinguisher.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah.
But I don't think anybody knows, and I don't think, and this is part of the fear thing too. They can keep us in fear if we are uneducated.
Yeah, that's why I said what I said. I just like the fentanyl thing. I just want to know more about it. Not about the drug, but we can identify the movement of certain things from certain locations. Like that's something that is documented, and there are people that have been actively involved or historically involved and that can say certain things about that stuff. The fentanyl stuff, it just seems to be coming out of nowhere right now, and I just want to know more about the truth of it.
Well, so this, it was a lot easier after NAFTA went into effect to move drugs from Mexico to here. Not necessarily the drugs part, but just goods in general, because there's a bunch of trucks coming over, going back that way. So there are fucking plenty of labs in Canada and Mexico. It could be coming from both. I understand that, but
I don't want any more ifs. I just want to know what the truth is. I want to know a little bit more concrete.
Well, there probably is no truth. What I was getting at is that
there's something that's actually happening in the real world. It's physical.
Yeah, but
does not mean that there's necessarily fentanyl coming from Canada.
No, but what I'm saying is that it's easier to move drugs. So if China figured out that Mexico could move drugs here easily,
yes,
then maybe they are moving it. But there are fucking plenty of pharmaceutical labs in Mexico that they could do the same thing, both legal and illegal. Chapo built plenty of labs for heroin and everything else, so they're used to working with drugs.
I'm just taking a shot at the people right now that keep saying that China's doing all this stuff. Like I just get sick and tired of it being said that it's China when there's nothing that's even being put behind that at all.
No, and I think
and it doesn't have anything to do with me liking China or not liking China. It's about evidence. It's about when you're positing something and you're not saying anything substantive behind that thing. That's all.
I think one of the things that I read on the DEA fact sheet,
the one-page PDF.
Yeah, and I could be confusing it with something else. But so every chemical is going to have a signature. And so I think I'll have to pull it up again and we can talk about it during the gangs one, but I think that they've said that those chemical signatures have been traced to here and here and here.
That may be true, but I would rather have like a fentanyl Walter White standing in front of me telling me that than listening to the State Department telling me that right now.
And that's fair too. Especially after what that fucking parole guy said, where they're just fucking juking the numbers.
Yeah. That's the idea. Yeah, exactly. And again, like somebody's got to be out there that knows the. I honestly am not even saying that some of this isn't coming from China or 80% of it's not coming from China. I just want something a little bit more substantial being put out there.
Wouldn't fucking surprise me one single bit is that since fentanyl is legal and there are plenty of pharmaceutical companies in every state,
it's being produced here.
Is that they produce it here and then just fucking ship it out and say, oh, well, it was China.
Yeah.
Or they're giving them some fucking expired shit, and that's why people are. And I know you can't OD off of expired shit.
Well, you can OD off of expired shit, just like you can OD off
right,
of non-expired
but not
shit.
because it's expired.
Yes.
So, I don't know, but it wouldn't surprise me, especially if they just kept it off the books and made a bunch of money for another fucking slush fund. And yes, that is a conspiracy theory. And yes, it is unsubstantiated. I was just floating it out there.
Is that what we're going to start calling you, the floater?
I'm floating unsubstantiated conspiracy theories.
Brian, the conspiracy theory turd. He's a floater. I'm here for you, dude. I am. I really am.
Dickhead.
And I am scheduled too, because I have great abuse for potential for abuse, and I am definitely medicine for the ears. So
Yeah, I I can't argue with that. I haven't seen any data on it, but
except for the fact that we only get like 11 people that listen to this every week.
um, so I know we did kind of what we usually do, but we're coming up on an hour again. Um,
Did we veer off?
was there anything? I mean, because we kind of touched on the fact that we can't really legalize it without including some of these other countries. We kind of touched on Nixon and his fucking war on drugs and the formation of the DEA. We touched on the medicinal or possible medicinal benefits of some of the stuff that they say there's no fucking reason to have it, in Schedule 2. And obviously, we could go a lot deeper for hours and hours more, and we may end up doing that again later. But
High abuse potential. Just one thing, real quick. I don't know anybody that's ever gotten addicted to peyote. I just don't.
I always wanted to try it and never did.
And the people that I know that took acid, they take it at certain times for certain events, generally speaking. I mean, I know when I was 16, I tripped about every third or fourth day for about 6 or 8 months, maybe longer, 12 months, maybe 16 months. But no matter what, when it was done, like you could say that it was high abuse potential, but I would actually argue, and I would be happy to sit down and argue with anybody about this, that this was actually my own form of PTSD therapy, that I was negotiating some of my own problems from my youth. And psychedelics helped me to work a lot of that stuff out and got my brain moving in a much healthier direction, I think, personally. So
Well, I
you'd play
mean,
hot coals like you were crazy. So
I could argue that I've been doing my own fucking therapy forever, just trying to fill the hole in my soul with booze, with acid, with weed.
that's
I know there's a difference.
self-medicating.
Yeah.
Yeah, is I mean, because the acid was there and then it's gone. Like I haven't tripped acid since December 31st, 1995, at the fish show. Three sets.
I don't
Great
remember the
night.
last time I tripped. I know it was a long time ago, but I used to trip a lot. And we didn't fuck around. Like, I mean, oh, 4 hits? Oh, no, here, have 2 more. Okay. You
Yeah,
want
you
two
you
more?
played you played hot coals.
I juggled fire, motherfucker.
Yeah,
And walked fire.
you were a little crazy.
Yeah. Juggling fire while on LSD is no joke, dude. Because you you can't really see it because there's lots of tracers, so you're not real sure what you're grabbing at. So,
But when you have blisters, second-degree blisters on your hand the next day.
I never burned myself. Well, I have burned myself, but not on the hot coals. Um, and I walked across fire barefooted. It's mind over matter.
When it comes to LSD, nothing is impossible. And and I'm not telling people to go walk over fire when they're tripping. That is not what we're saying. And I have to admit that even as we have this tailing conversation right now, our argument for at best at least decriminalization and at best regulation and legalization, we're not helping our cause any right in this moment.
But dude, I mean, seriously, then if doing stupid shit because you're on drugs is a reason to not legalize them, then by that same token, we should make alcohol illegal.
Yeah, because it's just people doing stupid
Because
shit over
I've
and
done
over and over
lots of stupid shit drunk. I mean, I've done stupid shit drunk fairly recently, and when I say that, I mean within the past 5-6 years.
Yeah, I don't doubt your abilities.
No, I'm real good at doing stupid shit. So, I mean, stupid shit just
it comes with the territory.
yeah.
I understand that, and actually, to be perfectly honest, with you, stupid shit comes with the territory of being humans to begin with, right? I mean, we do a lot of stupid things with or without, aids to our mood.
And those people, so I can't even remember what the fucking is it the Raspberry Award? They give some fucking award to the stupidest person every fucking year or whatever, or they have top 10, and they like showed that one motherfucker in the like the stand up pool with a fucking ladder, and he's got a fucking electric drill trying to drill something above his pool. There was the guy that tied all those helium balloons to his lawn chair, and he had a BB gun, and he was just gonna shoot him so that he'd let himself down slowly. There were all of the, I mean, dumb motherfuckers, and I don't even think a lot of those people were drunk. So then again, I mean, stupidity. Should we just throw those people in jail because they're stupid? Obviously not. But I mean,
Maybe we could have like a stupid person Hunger Games or something like that.
oh, dude, I thought we should just move them all out to a fucking island. Stupid island.
Yeah, I remember you used to talk about that.
So I don't know. I mean, obviously, we're all gonna do stupid shit, drunk, sober, high. I still think we should fucking legalize them all. And if you're scared of something, whether it be stupidity or crime or whatever, I mean, New York has a needle exchange right now and like rehab clinics. I'm not sure how they're doing it, how it's funded or whatever. I'm guessing that they get a lot of donations, but I don't think crime has seen a huge fucking increase now that people are using clean needles and are still allowed to shoot up. They have like places where they can go and shoot up and hang out.
It's called a clean
Yeah.
injection site. That's what they're. That's the point. You got it. I mean, if people are going to do these things regardless, then don't first and foremost don't create other medical issues out of them because they're doing there. You're gonna have two things that are going to be in place. You're going to have, like you said, if they got clean needles, that means you're not AIDS, HIV, I guess would be a better way to say that. Hepatitis, the various things that you can spread around through needles, and also you're going to have somebody on. You're going to have Norco there. You're going to have somebody on site.
To make sure
If a person overdoses, then they're, and you can tell me that that's just let them die, but fuck you, motherfuckers. Like all you fucking motherfuckers who work on Wall Street, you were all in fucking you all went to schools that had alpha omega bullshit. You drank. You did something stupid. You could have died too. Maybe you almost did. Maybe you accidentally killed somebody and your parents were rich and they covered it up for you.
What's that guy's name? Oh yeah. Well, dude, it's my understanding that again, I don't know how they come up with these stats, but like a lot of the upper middle class are now using heroin on a fairly regular basis, regardless of color. But you mentioned the Wall Street guys. So who has more disposable income than fucking bankers?
They're like
Obviously, there's shitty bankers that probably don't have as much, but
they're like Eric Stoltz in Pulp Fiction, and they're not joy popping with a bunch of bubblegummers,
right. Have you seen my little book? Should have been with the needle.
You want me to stab him in the chest 3 times?
I need a big fucking red marker. Okay, so we're over an hour. Again, I know that there's areas where we need to circle back. I think we're going to touch on a lot of the areas next week when we do gangs. And that's going to connect again, prison industrial stuff to drugs to gangs, because we didn't really cover mandatory sentencing, which
We
I
talked
kind of
about it
wanted
a
to talk
ton
about
in
it.
that we on the episode for
We've
the
talked about
94
it.
crime
Yeah,
bill.
we've
So,
talked about it
but
previously, but
you all understand that mandatory minimums, when it came, that those were almost exclusively rooted to drugs, or many of them were rooted to drugs. A lot of them were rooted to crack at first. They changed a little bit as time went on, but they put people in jail for a really, really long time.
well, and the 94 crime bill was also the fucking genius fucking instrument that made buying more than 2 boxes of Benadryl illegal. And that was directly related to meth.
So on the way out, so when I was coming back from Toronto, right?
Yeah.
Like I had gotten I was about a half an hour on the east side of Des Moines, and that cop was fucking tailing me for about 5 miles.
Yeah,
right?
you
And
said he was drafting
he drafted
you.
me, yeah. And like the second he drafted me, I knew he was trying to justify the grounds for pulling me over. So they pulled me over. They come, and Althea's in the car, Tila's in the car. Althea's fucking going ape shit, and he's like, you want to maybe come out here so your dog doesn't kill me. And another cop car pulls up at that time. We go over, and I sit in his car. It's fucking cold out, dude, and I'm in my shirt and my shorts because I've been in the cab for fucking hours. I wasn't gonna plan on getting out until we got there and take her to pee and then fucking go sleep. I was looking for a Comfort Inn because they were pet friendly, right?
Right.
But this fucking this cop, he sits me in the seat next to him. Long story short, what's in the car, or in the cab of the truck, or what's in the back of the truck, and I tell him, can I have the key for the lock? I'm like, yeah. He's like, do I have the your permission to search it? I said, I don't give a fuck. I said, just go fucking search the truck. And normally I would not say that. I would say, go get a fucking warrant. Fuck you. You don't have the fucking right to do that. But I had been on the road for 16 hours. I left Toronto that morning. I was fucking tired. And they went through him and this fucking rookie cop who's fucking shining his car. They get into my fucking dirty underwear. I was kind of laughing at that point. There was this tool kit that Nicole's brother had given me, where it was like 5 tools on this side. It was a lockable kind of case, And of course, it's not locked; it's unlocked, But it's in the styrofoam, so they pull all the fucking tools out of it, and they're like trying to pull the styrofoam out, like I might have had something, hidden underneath it, right? So like after about an hour and 15 minutes, they give up and they realize that there's nothing in my fucking truck, right? He comes back, and I'm pissed at that point in time, and I'm not gonna just walk away, He says, okay, so there's nothing in your truck, you can go. I said, no. I said, I want to talk about this. He says, what do you mean? I says, I want to know why you guys stopped me. I said, what the fuck, And there was really nothing that he was going to tell me at that point in time that I was going to believe. But he said, the first thing that he said to me was, well, a lot of people come from, he says, you got flagged when you came across from Canada. He said, you went through at, I can't remember the one that was the north one. It was I can't remember.
Minnesota or something.
Well, no, I was in Michigan, but there's 2 crossings. There's one at Detroit, and then there's one in the Port Huron, I think is what it's called. He says you went through at Port Huron at such and such a time this morning, and you got flagged when you went through there. I said, why? He said, well, because people come from like New Mexico and Colorado, and they drive up to Canada, and they get stuff to make methamphetamines, and they come back down. I said, would I have driven from Colorado to fucking Ontario? I said, are you fucking insane?
Yeah, why not go to Alberta?
I'd just go straight fucking north. He's like, why would I ever fucking do that? He said, look, dude, it's a bucket with a bunch of holes in it, and I'm just plugging one finger in it. I said, this is fucking bullshit, dude. I said, I don't even know if I believe what you're telling me is the truth. He said, look, he said, here's my card. He said, if you have any more problems on the way, like as you go through back down to Colorado, just have them call me. I'll make sure that they know that you've already gone through this process because you have been flagged federally, so it might happen again, And I was like, fucking motherfucker,
Dude, it's just, but I wonder what the flag was actually for.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't believe it was for that. I just don't believe it was.
No, why
the drugs thing just doesn't make sense in the context of me. Colorado
well,
or
and
not.
even the
Going to
Benadryl, I
Ontario,
mean,
I
what
had been I was on an academic visa for a year, and I had been there for 6 months. Nothing made sense about me being flagged. So almost 6 months, about 5.5 months. So nothing made sense. It's because I was at a fucking Marxist school and because I was a fucking a revolutionary motherfuckers.
What was the middle part? Okay. So prison, drugs, gangs, military, government, slush funds, budgets.
We're going to break up the second part of the one for this week later on. We're going to talk about the films in relation to drugs, right, for a while.
Yeah. But we're not going to talk about our opinion on shit for 2 hours again, because I noticed that usually on that second one there's a drop.
Guys, yeah, you're not quite. I can't believe that. I thought our opinions were interesting.
Dude, I think our fucking opinions are great, but whatever.
So we're gonna try to think of something creative to do for the second half. Maybe synthesize everything that we're trying to put together a little bit or something.
Yeah. So drug movies, and then something else in the next couple of days. So
sometime over President Day's weekend. Maybe we'll announce our intention to run for president in the next election.
Yeah.
You can be president, I'll just be vice president. I just want to be the head of the Senate. So I can sit there and talk shit to a bunch of rich motherfuckers all day long. Go have beers with Bernie Sanders a little bit, you know.
That's whatever. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed this episode. We will talk to you soon. What's the
720-334 roll.
Roll, bitches, roll. Shortbusdebateclub at yahoo.com.
We are not gonna run for presidency. That was just a joke.
Well, fuck it, we might. Let's see how things go this next couple of weeks.
If it blows up, then we'll think about it.